Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story, so this happened last October in 2023, and I feel it's finally safe to share it. Given the ongoing health concerns at that time, going to campus was still limited, so many classes remained online. As a result, a lot of programs used for coursework, which were only available on PC, needed a remote link for those of us on Macs or other devices. This link connected students to assigned desktops physically on campus through an application like Citrix. It would only allow students onto the desktops when another class wasn't remotely using that lab at the time, and at night when registered classes were done. The on-campus computers would show that their drives were in use, so the students who lived on campus would know that someone was remotely accessing it. I was taking a course in environmental data analysis, which required access to programs such as QGIS, RStudio, and Envy. You can look them up. They were only available on PC, so I, as a MacBook user, needed to use the remote link. The issue started at the beginning of October when I was working on an assignment in QGIS. I was really startled when I was suddenly kicked out, and then furious because I hadn't had the chance to save my latest input. I went back to the web page, re-entered my student credentials, and logged into a different desktop. Not 2 minutes later, I was logged out again. Rightly peeved, I emailed Professor Johnson and the TAs about it and moved on to other homework. I figured it was a bug that would soon be fixed. No, it continued throughout the entire month. I ended up having to work on my remote labs between 9 p.m. and 2 a.m. as I literally wasn't able to work during the day without being kicked off. It was really annoying, especially since I couldn't even work during my assigned lab time. Other students started reporting this, and we'd get a lot of emails from IT, updates, patches, and things like that we had to install to try and fix this bug. And nothing worked. It was painful. I decided that enough was enough and took a train to campus after my online morning classes. If it was going to keep booting me off the remote, then I would just go in person. I completed the online health check, got to campus no problem, and made my way to the building that housed all the PCs. Yes, we have a building that houses all the PCs for computer classes. Anyway, I went up towards the lab that my credentials were registered to. I'm going to be honest, I wasn't expecting what I saw, but I sure was damn pissed. Through the windows into the lab, I saw two guys going from PC to PC, logging students off. At first, I couldn't believe it, and then I got furious. They were laughing about screwing with hard-working students. I will call them Tweedledum and Tweedledee. That's when I decided to get some payback. I pulled out my phone and placed it beside the window, partially hidden by the trash bin inside the classroom, recording them and what they were doing. They didn't notice me, thank God, and I got onto my laptop, remote linking to my phone. I then got onto the university social media page and started to live stream the video from my phone. I put a title along the lines of, "Found the bugs kicking students off remote desktop. Video has been deleted and I will explain soon." It didn't take long for fellow students to take notice of it, and it went viral within 30 minutes. Names were soon put out as Tweedledum and Tweedledee were recognized, and there was a lot of hate in the comments. Even campus security replied, asking for the location. I was all too happy to give it. It was then I saw on the stream that Tweedledum pulled out his phone and he started freaking out. He had noticed the stream and that it was live. I quickly rushed to grab my phone and retreat, and that's when Tweedledee rushed out the door and tackled me. We started brawling. It was self-defense as he kept attacking me to grab my phone. And then I saw Tweedledum going for my laptop, which was hosting the stream, which was still being recorded from my phone. So I kicked Tweedledee between the legs while elbowing him in the neck before jumping Tweedledum. To be honest, I don't really know what happened next, but I do remember campus security having to pull me off Tweedledum. Apparently, I had full-bodied tackled him away from my laptop and he punched me in the face, with me apparently grabbing his carry-on bag, bashing him over the head with it, accidentally cracking his laptop. Oops! So anyway, the fight was broken up and we were all taken down to the campus security office. To make a very long story short, I got a relative slap on the wrist for my part of it, had to do some on-campus community service, but my record was kept clean, thankfully. I was not charged for the fight or the laptop as I was able to prove self-defense, and that they hit me first, tried to destroy my property intentionally, which made it worse for them. I was let off on the laptop for a technicality, as I was punched in the face and had no idea that he even had a laptop in his carry-on. Phew. As for Tweedledum and Tweedledee, I was called in to testify at each of their hearings in December. Turns out kicking students off remote links was considered a very grave academic offense, as it was intentional tampering with others' work. The video stream I took was a big part of the evidence against them, and CCTV proved that they had been doing it for weeks. In almost all the computer labs, they had intentionally messed with over 100 students. Adding to attacking me, I had a nice shiner for a month, and my devices, instead of running, they got into pretty hot water. Now, the reason this wasn't discovered sooner was due to the fact that this remote link was new to us, and IT was still working through the bugs. I don't know exactly what happened next, as they just needed me to come in, masked, and tell what I did and remembered. However, I did get notification in my email in March this year that 2 students were expelled for intentional tampering of other students' work. Can you guess who? Yep, Tweedledum and Tweedledee got the boot for their dumb actions. It gets even better though. Turns out they were here on student visas, which meant that not only were they expelled from the university with a black mark on their records, they were also given the boot from the country, and most definitely back to their very disappointed parents. Maybe it's karma, but they got publicly exposed on a live stream for their actions for all the school to see, which was taken down due to it needing to be evidence against them and all. But yep, they were expelled twice for their dumb actions, and with their names in campus infamy for their stunt. Hope they've learned their lesson. Kept from original post. Edit. Wanted to add that they were actually put on a cargo flight home, as their country wasn't allowing passenger flights. They had to go because without their visas, they were in the country illegally, which would land them in even deeper hot water. The university actually took mercy on them and paid for the flight, and I agree. They may have acted stupid, but that's no reason to have to deal with border security or whatnot. I only know this because I ran into and was able to talk with one of the campus officers who told me what happened when I went in person for a lab this recent September. So, yeah. Those guys had to take a cargo flight home. I think the uncomfortable experience they would have had was enough of a punishment compared to being in lockup until their country's borders opened or until other arrangements could be made. Edit 2. Wow, didn't expect it to blow up like it did. Truly astonishing. Thank you all. Edit 3. Okay, wow, looks like I need to correct some very inaccurate comments. First off, I'm not from Poland. Beautiful place, though. I'm in Canada. That actually exists, and am a former American citizen. Second, I can't say exactly, but Tweedledum and Tweedledee are from East Europe or Asia. I'm not certain. Thirdly, sadly, Canadians are actually smarter and more polite on average than most Americans. Something I have noticed. Also, this isn't a place to have discussions about whether Apple is good or not. This is about pro-revenge, and I'd rather not have my reapproved post locked down because of you guys going off topic. So please, stop. Edit 4. Seriously, is no one actually reading the first sentence? This is a repost of my story that was originally taken down due to a miscommunication between the mods over Rule 6. That issue is now resolved, so I'm reposting. Thank you. Edit 5. Do I seriously have to clarify this? Fine, I'm a 6-foot-plus tall woman who works out weekly and during my childhood and teens excelled in fighting sports and self-defense classes such as karate, judo, jiu-jitsu, boxing, and enjoyed and excelled in basketball, volleyball, dodgeball. I consider it a sport. Baseball, softball, swimming, cycling, skiing, and recently added archery, all while excelling in my science classes. I am also broad-shouldered, and from all those sports I enjoy very, very strong. I know how to fight and how to take down others much larger than I. In high school, I beat up bullies, male bullies, on the daily. Even though I haven't been as active in the past few years due to university homework crunch, I have stayed very fit. So yes, I could take skinny Tweedledum and skinnier Tweedledee, who were both shorter than I by a foot at minimum, easily. They just happened to get the drop on me. I still kicked their butts, and they're lucky I didn't break any bones, and the reason I didn't press charges or really notice if charges of assault on me were pressed was because I just wanted to move on and do all the homework that had piled up due to Tweedledum and Tweedledee. The term was only 4 months, sept to dec, with December being final exam time. So I'm sorry if I didn't care about what the university was doing with them. I just wanted to get my homework in so I didn't fail my courses. Also, can no one read? Like, seriously? The next one is an entitled people's story. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to end up in a property dispute, let alone a lawsuit. But life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. This is the story of how my peaceful lakeside property turned into a battleground with the most entitled neighbor I've ever had the misfortune of meeting. I inherited a beautiful piece of lakefront property from my grandfather. It wasn't much, just a small lot with a modest cabin, but it was my slice of paradise. I'd spend weekends there, fishing off the dock and enjoying the tranquility. That all changed when Karen moved in next door. At first, Karen seemed nice enough. She introduced herself as a recent retiree looking for a quiet place to enjoy her golden years. We exchanged pleasantries, and I thought nothing more of it. Little did I know she had plans that would upend my peaceful existence. One Friday evening, I arrived at the cabin for my usual weekend getaway. As I pulled up, I nearly crashed my car in shock. There, straddling the property line between our lots, was a half-constructed garage. It was an eyesore, blocking my view of the lake and clearly encroaching on my land. I marched over to Karen's house, my blood boiling. When she answered the door, I tried to keep my cool. "Karen, what's going on with that garage?" I asked, pointing to the monstrosity. She had the audacity to smile. "Oh, isn't it wonderful? I decided I needed a place to store my boat and some lake toys. It'll be finished by next week." "But it's on my property," I said, my voice strained. Karen waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, don't worry about that. I'm sure we can come to some arrangement. It's not like you use that part of your lot anyway." I was dumbfounded. "Karen, you can't just build on someone else's property without permission. You need to stop construction immediately and remove what's already there." Her smile faded, replaced by a scowl. "Listen here, young man. I've been nothing but nice to you, and this is how you repay me? I'm not removing anything. That garage is staying put, and if you don't like it, tough luck." With that, she slammed the door in my face. I stood there, shocked and angry. I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what. I spent the weekend documenting the construction, taking photos and measurements. On Monday morning, I called a lawyer. My lawyer, Sarah, was a no-nonsense type who specialized in property disputes. After hearing my story and reviewing the evidence, she was confident we had a strong case. "What Karen's done is clearly illegal," Sarah explained. "She's trespassing and violating zoning laws. We'll file a lawsuit and seek an injunction to stop further construction. We'll also demand she removes the structure and pays for any damages to your property." I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety. I'd never sued anyone before, and the thought of going to court was intimidating, but I knew I had to stand up for myself. We filed the lawsuit, and Karen was served with papers. To my surprise, instead of backing down, she doubled down. She hired her own lawyer and countersued, claiming that I had verbally agreed to let her build the garage and that I was now going back on my word. The months leading up to the trial were stressful. Karen continued construction on the garage, ignoring the cease and desist orders from my lawyer. She also started a smear campaign in the neighborhood, telling anyone who would listen that I was a selfish young man trying to bully a poor retiree. Finally, the day of the trial arrived. I was nervous, but Sarah assured me we had a solid case. As we entered the courtroom, I saw Karen sitting there looking smug. Her lawyer was a slick-looking guy in an expensive suit. The trial began, and Karen's lawyer presented their case first. He painted a picture of Karen as a sweet old lady who had made an honest mistake. He claimed that I had verbally agreed to the garage and was now trying to renege on our deal. When it was our turn, Sarah methodically dismantled their arguments. She presented the photos and measurements I had taken, showing clear encroachment on my property. She also brought in an expert witness, a local zoning official, who testified that the garage violated several local ordinances. The turning point came when Sarah called me to the stand. I nervously took my seat and swore to tell the truth. "Did you ever give Karen permission to build on your property?" Sarah asked. "No, I did not," I replied firmly. "The first I knew about the garage was when I saw it half-built on my land." Karen's lawyer tried to trip me up during cross-examination, but I stuck to the truth. I could see the judge's expression change as he realized Karen's story didn't add up. The final nail in the coffin was when Sarah presented evidence that Karen had forged a document claiming I had given written permission for the garage. The forgery was amateurish, and Karen's face turned pale when it was shown to the court. After both sides had presented their cases, the judge didn't take long to make his decision. He ruled entirely in my favor. Karen was ordered to immediately halt construction, remove the garage at her own expense, and pay for any damages to my property. She was also fined for the zoning violations and the attempted forgery. As the judge read out his verdict, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Karen, on the other hand, looked like she had been hit by a truck. She started yelling at the judge, calling the trial a sham and threatening to appeal. The judge warned her to calm down or face contempt charges. Outside the courthouse, Karen tried one last time to intimidate me. "This isn't over," she hissed. "I'll appeal this all the way to the Supreme Court if I have to." Sarah stepped in. "Mrs. Karen, I'd strongly advise against that. You've already lost once, and an appeal would only cost you more money. The smart thing would be to comply with the court's decision and move on." Karen stormed off, leaving me and Sarah to bask in our victory. Over the next few weeks, I watched with satisfaction as the garage was dismantled and removed. My view of the lake was restored, and my property was mine again. The experience taught me a valuable lesson about standing up for myself and not letting others take advantage of me. It also made me appreciate the importance of good neighbors and clear property boundaries. As for Karen, she put her house up for sale not long after the trial. I hear she moved to a condo in the city, where I hope she learned her lesson about respecting other people's property. As for me, I'm back to enjoying my peaceful weekends at the lake, with no garages in sight. The next one is a petty revenge story. This was years ago, but it still brings a smile to face at times. Back in school, a handful of students, including myself, missed a major test due to extracurriculars. The teacher already arranged for us to take the test in a back room during regular class session. There was a guy, let's call him Eric, who was the typical F-boy who behaved like he was all that and a bag of chips. Rude, obnoxious, and didn't once talk to me, until that hour in the testing room. Back in school, I was mostly quiet. If RBF was a thing back then, I would have been the poster child for it. I was known to be a bit nerdy, so it wasn't a surprise when he sat right next to me chatting it up. He went on to tell me how I looked like I could be a Victoria's Secret model and I was one of the prettiest girls in school and blah blah blah. He then asked if he could copy my answers. I smiled and said, "Sure, give me a few minutes and I'll show you my answer sheet." He grinned and twirled around in his seat, fidgeting with his pencil, making absolutely no effort in taking the test. I look up and whisper, "Done. Hurry up and copy." With no hesitation, he hurriedly copies my work. I told him to walk away first so it wouldn't be suspicious. He did. As he was leaving, he did a weird salute and laughed at the other students still taking the exam. As soon as that door shut, I erased the answers I gave him and filled in the correct answers. I turned my work in shortly after. The teacher said she would take a week to grade them. During that week, Eric didn't say hi to me at all. When he did look in my direction, he would elbow to his friend to laugh at me. I couldn't wait until he got his results. The day finally came. The teacher handed us back our graded tests, and the way he stood up, shocked, shouting, "An F?" and ran over to me to see my A+ grade, was chef's kiss. He definitely stopped laughing at me after that. The next one is a malicious compliance story. Backstory: I'm 16 and my dad was pretty ad-cent for the first 8 to 9 years, showing up for events and then going somewhere. And near the 10-year mark, he started showing up more and more, starting to be more active in my life. He had other kids from a past relationship, and I still talked to 3 of them, and having one of their numbers, me, my mom, and some family was living with us, had our own place, and he had his own house, living with the younger 2 of the 3 and 2 dogs. But due to some financial difficulties, me and my mom moved in with him. The change was weird, but I was fine. The malicious compliance. Me and him went to go get food at a fast food place. On the drive, he wanted me to call one of my brothers and ask him what he wants. I didn't have that brother's number, so I asked for his phone, so I get his number. He hands it to me, and I look it for and put it in and calls him. He doesn't answer, and I think he most likely doesn't have my number saved either, so I call him on my dad's phone and asks me, "Why are you calling him on my phone? I told you to call him on your phone." I tell him, I don't have his number saved, so I thought he doesn't has my number saved. He cuts me off and says, "I don't care. Don't think for anyone. Just do what I say." And so I will. When getting home, he asked me to just feed the dogs, and so I give the dogs their food, closing the dry food bag to not let the food go stale, but leaving door open for the dogs to come in and leaving the wet food container open on the kitchen counter. He sees the doors open and the container and gets mad at me for leaving the doors open and not throwing the container away and asks me, "Why didn't you close the door and throw it away? You know how I want you to do things." And I told him that, "You told me to just feed the dogs and I did what you said, and you told me to not think for anyone, and so I didn't." He tells me to forget what he said and to throw the container away, and so I did. The next one is an entitled people's story. Well folks, it's that time. Me traveling to and fro Costa Rica, getting treated to seeing crazy entitlement around flying. Flying used to be rare and fancy. Now it's just a flying bus. Oh boy, did I see lots of it, but this one kind of took the cake. The other day I had a 4-hour international flight to get home. I'd already booked a business class seat. Larger seat equals more comfort instead of being squished together like sardines in main cabin. When I went to pre-board, the gate agent told me she'd move me farther forward. Okay, cool beans, thank you. They wheeled my disabled ass to the door of the plane, and I discovered I was now sitting in first class. Score! I love first class, but it's usually prohibitively expensive, so I rarely buy a first class ticket. The only other person pre-boarding in a wheelchair is sitting just in front of me in first class, and I had just watched her make a huge production of getting aboard, crying, whining, and yelling. I sense she's a tad dramatic because she's only got an over-the-counter not-so-supportive knee support on, no crutches or cane, nothing medical issue that you'd get with a serious knee injury or disease. But whatever, people are entitled to be as weird as they want to be. Once regular boarding started, I got to see my seatmate for the flight, a man with a magnificent quiff of chestnut hair and a man bun and a large beard. He was dressed in old shorts and an old stained tee. I'd watched folks looking like they bathed in hand sanitizer giving him wide berth and a variety of not very friendly looks in the airport waiting room. I'd seen how they were treating him and thought I'd love to know his story, so lo and behold, he's sitting with me just behind yelling knee lady. We settle in, and over wine we start talking. He's a federal and military retiree, just like my husband, and he's traveling around the world, going places that strike his fancy with merely a backpack. We're having a good conversation with a bit of laughing thrown in, but we're speaking at regular conversational level, not loudly at all. We've only been airborne 30 minutes or so when knee lady starts yelling for the flight attendants to move myself and this gentleman because, her reasoning, we were dirty hippies who didn't belong in first class. He and I are looking at each other and laughing at that. We're both post-60, yes, he's dressed very casually but is clean and doesn't smell. I'm wearing an outfit of linen tunic printed in an atoll fabric, black pants, and Birkenstocks. This is an outfit that one of my kids teases me makes me look like I am on my way to teach yoga in Connecticut. Sort of alternative, sort of suburban upper-class lady. Thankfully, the flight attendant had a lot of common sense telling knee lady that she's not moving us anywhere, but she will ask us to pipe down some if that helps, knee lady. We both smiled at the attendant, and that she didn't even have to ask, we'll be more quiet. Lunch followed by a nap. When we arrived in Costa Rica, I got to see a jetway Jesus experience as yelling knee lady was suddenly able to walk without much trouble once her suitcase arrived. I just had to laugh at that as the guys at the airport pushed me out to my car. I swear, I feel so sorry for everyone having to deal with folks like this. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.